We're going to talk about what has happened in Ukraine. We'll examine the actions and the strategies, both military and political. Now, if this is your first time watching, my name is Darren Gertis. I'm a professor who has built multiple leadership programs at Charleston Southern University. So we'll also view these events through the lens of leadership. And I also wrote a book about Zelensky called I Need Ammunition, Not a Ride, and you can find it on Amazon. Okay, so I told you that I was going to have a special episode where I was just talking about the a poll of who is pro-Russia, who's anti-Russia. So today there was a poll that came out. It was the Democracy Perception Index. It's an annual survey that's carried out. So every year they do this, but here in this survey they were asking about negative or favorable views of Russia, and it came out shortly after the invasion. So the invasions happened. We know that Russia was not under threat, but they invaded because they wanted to denazify Ukraine and they felt threatened by NATO expansion or whatever it was that they used as an excuse. But they weren't actually, this wasn't self-defense. Okay. So with that as a background, the countries with the most negative view of Russia included, in order, Poland, 87%. Remember, the Poles understand what it was like to be overrun by the Soviets. They don't want to go back to that. Ukraine, 80%. Wait a minute. Ukraine's second on the list. Portugal, 79%. Go Portugal. Sweden, 77%. UK, 65%. Italy, 65%. US, 62%. Germany, 62%. Even Hungary. Now, remember, Viktor Orban is like a Putin buddy. Like they're allies. They have a 32% net negative view of Russia in Hungary, in spite of Orban, who's, I'm sure, singing his praises. Even in Venezuela, like, so now this didn't cover every country. It covered only like 50 countries, 54 countries, I think. Even Venezuela, which is largely propped up by Russia, they had a net negative view of Russia at 36%. Now, the poll also found that majorities of 20 of these 54 countries, they don't want to cut ties with Russia. Like U.S. businesses were like, we're out. We'll see you. We're not doing business here anymore. They don't want to do that. And so these countries included, among others, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to subset it by continent. Greece, Turkey, and Hungary do not want to cut ties in Europe. Okay. Now Turkey is right on the border. I get that. Greece surprised me. Hungary didn't because, again, Orban. Um, and so that's in Europe, and then in the Middle East, Israel and Saudi Arabia. Now, Israel, I understand, Israel has worked really hard to have a good relationship with Russia because there's a lot of Jews that hail from Russia, and they're trying. I mean, look, if you're Israel, everything's about if you're Jewish, right? I mean, and so they're trying to keep good relations with anybody who might be Jewish. Saudi Arabia, I found interesting. Like the Saudis could change the dynamics if they wanted to instantly. They could just simply pump out a ton of oil and make it so that it didn't matter what the Russians were putting out, because they could drop the price of gas through the floor. And the Saudis have done this before. The Saudis did this to punish ISIS and American frackers at the same time. If you remember, gas prices fell through the floor a few years before COVID, and there was a reason for that. The Saudis just increased production, and so the price of gas came way down. But the Saudis don't particularly care. They don't want to cut ties with Russia over this. In Africa, Algeria, Egypt, Morocco, Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, all were in that camp. Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, Pakistan, and China in Asia, they're in that camp. And in the Americas, Mexico and Peru. Okay, so most interestingly, some countries actually had a positive view of Russia. Even after the invasion. And so these included Morocco with a net positive view of 4%, Egypt with 7%, Saudi Arabia with 11%, Indonesia 14%, Algeria 29%, and India with 36%. So Yeah, and India's been something I've been scratching my head because I've just seen a lot in the press about like India just had a pro-Russian kind of position here. And I'm thinking like, how do you have a pro-Russian position? I get China, like China's going to be the big winner here in my estimation because I think the worse it gets for Russia, the better China does. Where it used to be that Russia was the big brother and China was the little brother, but it's increasingly looking like China's going to be the big brother and Russia's going to be the little brother. In fact, if Russia continues to beat itself upon the rock that is Ukraine, I mean, it may become like North Korea like in the sense of just being an outcast from the world system and dependent on China. So China's a big winner if they play their cards right. They have to play it really carefully because they don't want to look like they're helping, but they want to keep in an allied form. So yeah, so all these countries in the West are now. China wasn't on that list of the ones with a net positive view of Russia, but they're going to be the big beneficiary. Now, I also want to add with that that you know who your friends are when you need help. Now, this is a bonus to what I was talking about with the with which countries are pro or against. Lithuania. The same day the survey came out, I saw this news article. The Lithuanian people crowdfunded $5.4 million to purchase a Bayraktar drone. It's this big military drone, a Bayraktar from Turkey. Now, only Turkey makes the Bayraktar, and they had to get permission from Turkey to buy it. And they raised the money. They crowdsourced it. So somebody put out like, "Hey, help us buy this," and it wasn't the government; it was the people of Lithuania giving their own money to buy this drone. And yeah, that was something. You know who your friends are when you need help, and the Baltic states particularly are in Ukraine's corner. Okay, so that's all for this special episode. Hey, if this video was helpful, hit like to help others find it in YouTube's algorithm. Subscribe so that you can stay informed. And one more thing, if you are moved to contribute to the humanitarian aid for Ukraine, I have a link below for Samaritan's Purse. If you want to give, be sure to give only to reputable organizations. There's a lot of scammers out there. Thanks for your time.